get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Michael Benson. I am the Regional Governor for Regions 3 and 4, Chair of the IEEE-HKN Membership and Chapters Committee, and pleased to say, going to be leading this session on corporate and industry programs. We have with us three highly knowledgeable people, two students, and obviously Nancy, our director, who can speak to what they do with their chapters, and we'd love to have you get engaged as well. So we'll be going until about 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time. As a shameless plug, I definitely encourage everyone here, please come to our candidate forum this afternoon, and also the region meetings later as well, plus so many other wonderful sessions today. So with that, I'm going to start with Ashley and then go to Nathaniel and Nancy. If you could let us know who you are and and maybe give a brief description, Ashley, Nathaniel, about your chapter's corporate or industry programs, interactions that you have currently, if any.
Sure. So my name is Ashley Coonley. I am the president of the Lambda Beta chapter at California State University, Northridge. So our chapter is still getting a lot of its stuff together, but we have been working with Autodesk. We've had 2 events and we have another one coming up. We just did a SoCal Edison panel. We are working with Medtronic to get some stuff set up. So our industry outreaches for a lot of the companies that are local to where we are that we know that hire our students this season.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Nathaniel?
Hey everyone, I'm Nathaniel. I'm the Corporate Relations Officer for the Beta Epsilon chapter here at the University of Michigan. Currently, I work with startups local to Ann Arbor as well as some larger corporations. I know for our very first actives meeting, we had Atomic Object, a local startup, come in to talk to us in person, which was pretty cool. We've also worked with Procter & Gamble for some original meetings, also Lucid Software. And I'm currently in talks. We have Bloomberg coming in a couple of weeks, and also I'm in talks with Goldman Sachs and a couple other companies we've worked in the past for tech talks and other meetings and things like that.
Awesome. Nathaniel, before we move on to Nancy, could you actually explain, just so we're all using the same terminology, what's a tech talk?
Yeah, sure. So tech talks basically, I mean, like if you've been to an information session, it's basically like an HKN sponsored information session where a company would come in, do a technical presentation. It's not open to just HKN members, we open to all University of Michigan students, where they would come and give a technical presentation. There would be pizza if it was in person, but going forward, we're offering both virtual and in person. But then there'd be a portion at the end for one-on-one and resume for them to accept resumes.
Thank you. All right, and Nancy.
Hi, great. Thanks so much, and welcome everyone. If I haven't met you yet, please hit me up on the People tab. I'd like to connect with each and every one of you. I'm the director of IEEE-HKN, so this is what I do all the time, and really, no one can have a better job than I have, right? Because I get to work with all of the wonderful people like the ones you're meeting here, our board, and HKN members, students, chapters, around alumni around the globe. So, HKN also depends on corporate support. This conference, for instance, depended on corporate support. And so it's my job also to go out and talk to companies, work with industry in a lot of ways, and promote what is HKN. What is the secret sauce, Michael likes to always say, about HKN students and our program, and go out and talk to them and engage them in what we do, both as HKN at the headquarters level, but for each of you at the chapter level. So again, I'm out there also supporting you and helping, always interested in supporting you in your outreach to corporations, because it could go both ways, right? We have them here, and they could also be at your local program. And if they're local program, we could also bring them to everyone. I'm telling you, industry loves to meet HKN students. And so that's why these programs you're going to hear about have been successful, because industry really does value and appreciate what it means to be HKN.
Absolutely. And I should note as well, I serve as an advisor for Beta Epsilon. So really so happy to see, well, everyone here. Nathaniel, though, Beta Epsilon has a pretty well-developed corporate industry relation program, I think is a way to put it. I know Ashley, with chapter kind of getting back up and running too, you've had a phenomenal history of it as well. So, kind of coming from the two different perspectives, I think is really important. And Nancy able to speak to the broader context. What we want to do here is share some tips and tricks, pitfalls that people have had, and ways to get around what I've seen, at least as common pitfalls in particular. So a lot of what we heard Nathaniel say, those companies, a lot of chapters would love to have, come to campus or do something, but they might not have a relationship with them. So part of that is certainly tied to the university, right? But there are other ways too, that even if you have a company that maybe hasn't traditionally worked with your campus before, how to do that. So I guess, Nathaniel, if you could maybe speak to, have you as our corporate relations officer, that's also a position that's not one of the required positions within IEEE Kappa Nu, but it's one that's been terribly successful for Beta Epsilon, having a specific person tasked really solely with corporate and industry outreach. And we should note too that, well, first off, when these companies come and give a tech talk, are we paying them to do that, or do they pay us?
Yeah, so for the tech talks, they actually pay us, which is pretty awesome. So I mean, part of it was that, like, in person we do offer food, which is an incentive for students to come, and so part of that would be paying the food, but part of that is also to sponsor the tech talk. So I know in the past when it was virtual, we charged different rates, but yeah, I guess that answers that question. And they actually pay us. Pretty awesome. Yeah, as far as working with new companies,
sure.
That's something I've been working on this semester as well. A lot of it's just, like sending out those cold emails. And also, like adding recruiters on LinkedIn. I mean, that's just what I found to start a dialogue. And once you actually start the dialogue, you can advertise HKN, especially if your chapter has such a large history, such as University of Michigan's Beta Epsilon chapter. You can see like, hey, we're like the top 25% of EECS students, and you can have the statistics like we have typically these many members show up to meetings and stuff like that, and that usually helps a lot.
Yeah. So and again, every chapter can say that, right? We are the top, for undergrads, X%, Y% of juniors and seniors, graduate students in our program. Every chapter in Eta Kappa Nu, you probably don't know this, everybody, but not every institution can have an HKN chapter. This is actually something that differentiates us. Our academic programs have to be accredited by an accrediting body, and there are a certain set that we use within the United States. It's ABET. Externally to the United States, there are accrediting bodies that have to be signatories to certain treaties, agreements, you can call them. Basically, it's the point that we have a standard, and we do actually sometimes reject petitions to form a chapter based on the caliber of the academic institution. So everyone who's here, your chapters, your institutions meet that standard, right? So you absolutely can and should promote that you are the cream of the crop academically, but also too our other values and pillars, right? Character and attitude. So not only do you have the cream of the crop academically, but you have members that are inquisitive, that are put an effort in, and also too those that exemplify exceptional and outstanding character, and that through service in a variety of other ways. So I think that's something not just for University of Michigan, but really any of our chapters can and should be leveraging that as you reach out to potential industry partners. And it's a source both of revenue, but also too for your members to get jobs as well as other people on campus. Ashley, what about you? How are you all doing in that regard?
So we are working on connecting to our our department faculty and staff who know the industry professionals and companies that our students are going out to. So one of the things that we're also working on with computer science is trying to get a CIT panel. And so that means reaching out to a variety of the faculty who are in CIT, who have been there for a while, who know or have connections themselves that we can reach out to. For the Autodesk event, that was actually a conversation that I had with the department of the dean's office. So I had reached out to them, and CSUN has a pretty good connection with Autodesk, and we were able to follow up with them directly through HKN and let them know, our students are at the top, and we would love to give them an opportunity to either be a student ambassador or to just learn from the workshops that they can offer. So we've had a lot of opportunity as far as that. And then for reaching out to companies that haven't really notoriously been on campus, like Medtronic, we can use that as leverage as well as bringing them in. Because we were recently reactivated, we do not have the donations when the companies come in to speak with us, but we're also not paying. So right now we're working on getting our membership up, and we're inviting all ECE and CSCIT students. So it's not specific to HKN. And I think that's another big draw for getting these companies in, instead of just trying to reach out to our small but growing membership, is letting them know that I have connections with the department chair and with the dean's office, and we can send it to, you know, our 800 ECE students, or we can send it to the thousands of just CECS students in general.
Same thing. I'm putting a poll in the chat. Oh, go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Ashley, is that, you know, Eta Kappa Nu students, you certainly can do things for your Eta Kappa Nu members. And sometimes I know, like at Beta Epsilon, I believe you do, when you're having maybe a career fair or people come in, maybe you have some exclusive part of the session that's just for the HKN membership. And then the whole thing is, you know, maybe you open it up to everyone. So maybe you do an advance, maybe short meal or something with just the Eta Kappa Nu group. But Eta Kappa Nu, you can do for other people. It's part of it. And, you know, it's those service hours. We talk about it all the time. And when I promote Eta Kappa Nu, about the service hours that you're all doing. So in your annual reports, you're putting that together. So talking about what you do as a chapter, telling your story, is really important. Michael, we talk about those numbers all the time. So
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Michael, I interrupted you for your poll.
No, it's okay.
Excited to share that, because I think there's a bigger story to tell, right? And again,
Absolutely.
it's who you are. It's the value systems that we have. It's who you are through the programs that you offer. It's who you are through how you empower your leaders to learn different things. I know, Ashley, we've become close friends, but the different skill sets you learn managing up, but it's what you offer back in terms of the other kinds of soft skills that you develop by exercising those muscles in Eta Kappa Nu. And those are powerful things to employers.
Well put. And, you know, again, I really do want this to be a free-flowing session. So to certainly to Ashley and Nathaniel too, please feel free to jump in if you have a question for someone else or a comment, if you want to take the discussion in a different direction. That's totally acceptable and okay. And for our attendees as well, feel free to post questions in the chat, Q&A if you'd like. And yeah, would love to, definitely, we want to engage you. Katie notes something, Katie Brinker, in the chat, that career departments, development officers, and industry advisory boards can also be helpful in making connections with companies. Very true. However, be careful, in particular if you're looking to leverage those connections for fundraising. Depending on which way you go through, they might not want you to take money away from them, right? So be strategic, but absolutely correct. Those are phenomenal resources. In the polls, oh, go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, there's a poll. The other pro tip I would give you is your alumni.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So again, you've got a poll in there, Michael. It's a good poll. So I think again, how many companies you interact with, I think let's get a sense of that, because that gives you an idea of what's happening in other places. Because it can be, some do one or two, and others do quite a few. Others are very sophisticated programs. I read the chapter reports as Michael does. But I think the one thing that, we have to remember is we have HKN alumni. And Ashley, even though your chapter was dormant for a little bit, it's reactivated. You've got alumni that are out there in industry now. I mean, Beta Epsilon definitely does, right? You've got a number of very famous members. Larry Page. But other than that, you've got lots of people that are out there in industry, and your alumni are really interested in coming back and helping you. And they work for companies, and those companies hire engineers, and those companies also want to talk to engineers. So you have a different kind of affinity you can make with your own alumni. Michael's going to talk to you about how you find your alumni, the people that have been part of your chapter over the years. But that's a real powerful connection, and something that we have that is pretty exclusive to Eta Kappa Nu.
Absolutely. Nancy is reading my mind. This is exactly where I want to go with this poll question, into that to say, as we can see, let's take another moment or so. We have so far only 3 people have voted. One of them is me. So if everyone else could take a second in the session area, if you're on laptop or desktop, session polls. Go ahead and vote. If you're on mobile, I think the button is down towards the bottom of your screen.
Mm-hmm.
But as we'll see right now, at least it's 3-1. The majority, 75% at least so far, are in the 1 to 3 range.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the 10 plus, and I'm sure Nathaniel probably would be as well for the same chapter. So Nancy's point is exactly where I want to go with this, to say, okay, if you interact with, let's say it's fewer than 10 companies in a given academic term, do you have more than 10 alumni that are off working somewhere? Leverage them, reach out to them, and we can show you exactly how to contact them. Like Nancy was saying, we can do that now. We can do that. We have our HKN Learns platform launching midweek. But for those that were in my sessions yesterday, we went over this as well. They're a resource. And ideally, right, if you're all having fun, enjoying being in the chapter now, if when you're an alum, someone comes back to you and says, Ashley, we see you're working at wherever, would you be willing to come back to the chapter and blah, 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 maybe get the company to sponsor something, or, host a tech talk, or maybe do some recruiting here? My hope is, and my guess is, that you'd be willing to see if you can make that happen. Right now, not everyone is in a position where they can get their company to do that, but many are. And if they don't ask, you never know, right? So Nancy earlier mentioned kind of something exclusive for Beta Epsilon members. Now, do you want to talk about the Alumni Mixer that we host around the Fall Career Fair, and kind of the value of that?
Sorry, Michael, you said Nancy there?
Oh, you. Well, Nancy mentioned it, but if you could speak to, right, so we host a alumni reception around the Fall Career Fair, 300 plus companies, and a number of our, at least when it was in person, a number of our alumni come back as recruiters. So can you speak to just the value of that for the chapter, but then also too for our corporate program, the relationship there and keeping them engaged?
Yeah, definitely. If you just talk to like corporate recruiters like by yourself, it's kind of hard to break the ice. Like, sure, you give your elevator pitch, and then if they like you, there's like a 5% chance they actually fast track you to like the next step, which is actually the whole value of the career fair. And like 99% of the time, they'll just tell you to apply online. But with the Alumni Mixer, and especially when some of those alumni are recruiters, you get that instant connection. Like, hey, we're both from like X university, and we're also both HK alumni. So you don't have to you should give your elevator pitch, but you can also pitch opportunities for HKN, and also just having that instant connection it helps a lot, to break the ice. They'll definitely feel more inclined to help you. Also like how Ashley mentioned, just reaching out for alumni and the alumni coming to you for opportunities. Like, I've had a couple of alumni who are working for these companies like come to me like wanting to work for HKN, and I haven't had to reach out first, which is pretty awesome. Some companies are like Norton LifeLock and Tesla, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the Alumni Mixer is definitely I know in the past it was all virtual, obviously, but definitely in person I feel like it would be a lot more valuable.
Well, I think one of the points too, though, is, Nathaniel, is that you have a portion of your big career fair that's for your chapter members only. So I guess pre the event, you've got chapter members meeting with those alumni that are recruiters. So they have an exclusive session, however that runs. And then you have the big career fair, which everybody comes to, which it's perfectly, at a company should do things to help everyone. And that's a big part of what we do as an organization. But you also have that one section of it that's really just for your members. So to be able to have that moment to make the difference, right?
Absolutely. So what I'd like to do now is let's open it up to our audience. We've talked about at a sort of a high level, for the most part, different things that our chapters are doing to engage with industry, and an untapped resource for many is their alumni, right? And the ability to actually go ahead in, and we'll show you how to get a list of all of your alumni. And you can even see where they work, what they do. So if you're looking for someone, let's say from Microsoft, a TI, and Intel, we can help you do that. Now, the other thing too is I should note, because we're of our merger with the IEEE 11 years ago, one of the great benefits we got through that was the ability, now we're a part of the IEEE, but two, the tab societies. So what you may or may not know about these are the technical activity societies that There are, I think, 30 something at this point, Nancy, give or take 25 to 35, somewhere in that
It's
range.
always growing. It's always growing. There's
Yeah, exactly.
societies,
Ranging
there's
from
councils, so it's
now
and
they host a number of technical specific conferences. These are the groups that do the peer reviewed journal for everything under the sun within IEEE. But they also have both academic members and industry members, right? So let's say you're looking for, I'll use a personal example. I work in geoscience remote sensing. So the Geoscience Remote Sensing Society is something I'm a member of. And let's say you're looking for a company that does something like radar related or LiDAR or environmental management or what have you, right? You can go to GRSS, reach out and contact them. There's both a staff person at IEEE headquarters for almost all of those societies, as well as volunteers that lead it, and ask for, they have distinguished speakers. They also have others that you can reach out to and ask them to either virtually or in person come present. Now, if the person happens to be from a company, that's a kind of a backdoor into that company too, right? Because we're connected through IEEE. These folks want to get in front of students. It's something that if you bring them to campus, you could have a reception with them for your chapter members, and then have their talk, which is open to anybody, right? So it's a benefit both to the chapter, but then also to the campus community. And it's a way also, kind of like what Nathaniel was saying, is if you have something in common already, it's a way to bridge that small percentage that you might be able to forge that relationship if they don't like the elevator pitch and continue to do things, right? So that's something that, in looking through the activity reports that Nancy mentioned, I think only 1 or 2 chapters are actually doing at this point. So pro tip, it's certainly available to you, and we can help facilitate that too. So if you're looking for something, definitely reach out, info@hkn.org, reach out to your regional governor or a member of the board, and anyone, and we can definitely help you find a contact in a tab society for the appropriate tab society based on the technology area or policy area that you're interested in. So with that, let's open up to questions from the audience or comments. If your chapter does something different that we haven't mentioned, or if you have a question about maybe a challenge you've encountered, please either request to share your audio and video. You can join us on stage and ask or explain, or if you'd like, post in the chat and we can respond to that as well.
So, Mike, I'm going to post in the chat here the link for the
Societies.
The tab societies.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, and just also, if you're on IEEE.org, it's hard to navigate, but if you type in IEEE Fellows, in the IEEE Fellows directory, which you can access because you're a member, it's going to ask you to log in, but you can actually see there's a tab to say who's HKN. So you can toggle on that and say what fellows of IEEE are also at a Kappa Nu. So it's, again, pro tip, go there and figure out who these, who are the fellows, because they're very senior in their careers. They're very accomplished in their technologies, and they're at a Kappa Nu. So we made it very easy for you to find them in the fellows tab there. And in technical societies, we've been, it's not a huge percentage, but 20% of the technical societies, people are at a Kappa Nu. So we can make connections and help you there. And we've been talking to the director of TAB, the staff lead of TAB, and others, and the president of TAB. They're all at a Kappa Nu. So the president of TAB of all of technical activities is TAB, and the incoming president is also at a Kappa Nu. So they're very interested in helping us as an organization.
Absolutely. So see, we have a number of folks in the audience from our Nu Gamma chapter. Welcome, as well as Alejandro from Nu Alpha. Alejandro, I'm wondering if you might be able to join us and speak a bit. So Nu Alpha is a remote campus, right, at UNED. I'd be very curious to hear what you all do as far as corporate interactions, just by the nature of your chapter. I think you're in a unique position to share some insight here. If you'd be willing, please request to share audio and video and join us here. And we'd love to, if you're willing, tell us what you do. And while we see if that will work, Katie says in the chat, one thing we worry about when bringing in companies is having a low attendance and that leaving a bad impression. We feel like we need to have more member engagement before we bring in more companies, but more companies might bring in more member engagement. So we're kind of caught in a loop. That, Katie, you're not alone. And that's definitely something that every chapter struggles with. Some successful practices that I've seen in this regard are, if you can, if you're in a position to bring in a big name like a Microsoft, a Facebook, a TI, an Intel, when you know that's happening, at least a week or two out, start blasting campus, social media, on-campus flyers, whatever it might be, particularly if you're going to have food or anything else. If you have food, make them pay for it. But, right, it's their event. But really advertise it. Get it to the academic advisors, right? So they'll tell their students, ask the faculty to mention it in, related classes, etc., right? And you can really kind of bring that out. And if you, at that point, have an idea of other companies that will be coming, use the larger audience at that bigger name at the end of it and say, here are some of our upcoming tech talks. You can mention kind of, show blah, blah, blah company, this is what they do, right? Like a 1 sentence thing. And while you have a captive audience. So it still doesn't completely address the issue, but it's a way to leverage what will be a strong attended session to encourage others to do more. We've also
I'd also say, Michael, that one of the things you can do is certainly you can partner with other organizations, right? You don't have to go it alone. So you can partner your IEEE student branch. That's one option, but you might have technical society chapters on your campus as well. So just like there at a Kappa Nu chapters, their technical societies also have chapters, and some of them might be on your campus. So there's some other other organizations you could partner with as well. So there's no need to go it alone if you're bringing in a company and not invite other people from other organizations. Some people might be along with SWE, or there's a society of different societies that we partner with, other engineering groups. And I would say, don't go alone. Go out there, be the you want to be the haymaker as at a Kappa Nu, right? You want to bring it together. You want to be the one that's organizing it, but that doesn't mean you can't bring in all these other groups to do that. And I actually also posted in here the branding guidelines, which have templates. So it helps you look professional when you're going out with an ask, with letterheads and other kinds of things. You can even do business cards. So these things might help you also up your professional looking game as an organization when you're going out there to talk to people, inviting them or writing to them and things like that. So I guess looking professional also will have them treat you more like a professional organization.
A question then to Ashley and Nathaniel: do either of you at this point require your candidates for induction to attend any kind of corporate events that you might host on campus, or that someone else might host that you co-sponsor?
Yeah, so we decided to split up how the events we were going to require worked. So we have some social events, we have some academic and professional improvement events, and then we do have some corporate events. But I did want to jump in and talk about bringing in faculty. So for the Southern California Edison panel that we had, for those of you who don't know what Southern California Edison is, it's one of the largest utility companies we have out in California. It's also my utility company. When we had them come in, we also had to worry about what Katie had brought up, where we didn't have a whole lot of people in attendance. Even as far as registration went, we had about 50 people who registered, and usually we expect half of those people to show up. But what we ended up doing was we reached out to the associate dean, who came to say a few words because he had a relationship with SoCal Edison from his previous university, who actually stayed the whole event to be able to show his support of, so it was a co-hosted event with HKN and Tau Beta Pi, but so he stayed the whole time. We had had our department chair come, and we have 2 faculty who specialize in power systems, and they shared those events through Canvas, and they also emailed all of the students that they've had in the past, including their graduate students. So we made sure to go through those avenues, and those were the people who ended up showing up, and both of those faculty actually showed up as well. It also helped that our faculty advisor for Eta Kappa Nu is one of those power systems advisors, and the other, my Tau Beta Pi faculty advisor was the other one. So we had a lot of extra reach through faculty that I don't think that we would have normally had. So I would recommend definitely reaching out to faculty when you have events, especially if it's in their area.
Yeah, as for us, I mean, so we have like HKN general meetings, which are required for all electees to attend, and we have 6 of those, and we usually have a corporate speaker at each of those. So it's not mainly a corporate event, but like just to kick off the meeting, we do have a corporate speaker have a presentation. So all electees are required to attend that. And also for our actives meeting, I mean, for our first actives meeting, that was not for all the returning members, we had a corporate speaker there. But as far as like the events where there's only a corporate session, like for tech talks and workshops and things like that, none of that's required for anyone. We just advertise as much, and obviously it helps to go. It's for your own benefit. So, and we try to offer incentives like food, and we advertise a lot of like physical flyers and advertising through our engineering department's calendar and things like that.
So that actually got me to a point thing I wanted to make sure I brought up with you before we run out of time. Can you just touch on briefly kind of an overview of the chapter's corporate directors? Right? You mentioned tech talks, general meetings. What does Beta Epsilon do, and what do we charge for? What don't we charge for? Or just to kind of get that out there for folks.
Sure. So I guess to start off, I guess the biggest events are our general meetings, and that's where like all the electees are required to attend, and then it's open to all of our returning members as well. That just has like our month or bi-weekly chapter updates and things like that. And we have a big corporate speaker at each of those 6 general meetings throughout the semester, at which electees are required to attend all 6 to successfully elect. In addition to general meetings, we had our first actives meeting. So that was way early in September, and that was open to all the returning members. And that was when we had a local Ann Arbor startup come speak to us in person. It was pretty awesome. And then as far as pure corporate events, we have tech talks, and then we were also open to hosting workshops or special types of partnership opportunities that certain companies might want to do individually. Like I know last year Bloomberg wanted to host a resume and coffee chat workshop, so we did that. As far as what they pay for, all the general meetings are sponsored by them, with food and whatnot. The tech talks are also sponsored by them. Actives meeting was also sponsored by them. And also the workshops they do also sponsor. I think the only thing, like if they're hosting like for example for Google, like they're hosting their own series of virtual like workshop and things like that. Like we advertise that to our members, but we do not charge for that because I mean we're not physically involved in the hosting of those events.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, and again, you got to do this local for your chapter, for your campus. How much do you charge for each of those?
So in the virtual semesters, it was definitely like around half that. But so for our first general meeting, that's usually that's the very first event for all the electees to attend. I know historically that's been $1,200. And then every other general meetings the in-person ones are $600. Then the tech talks, the in-person tech talks are $375.
And companies pay it.
Yes. And I work with our treasurer to ensure the invoices are paid.
Right. So again, a corporate program's secret to success here is not necessarily just on the financial side, but we named the session this way for 2 reasons. One, it is a financial resource that many chapters don't take advantage of or struggle taking advantage of. So I want to provide some examples. And you don't have to be a Michigan to be able to do that. We have resources to help connect you with companies, local ones otherwise. But Michigan does have a very strong existing program, which definitely helps there as an example. But then also too, Ashley's point on faculty is a really, really good one. And Nancy bringing up the tab, contact with the tab societies. Part of our special sauce, I guess I do use that a lot, Nancy, is that we can help connect our members. We can offer benefits that they might not be able to find elsewhere. So let's say these 5 or 10 companies really are often recruiting at your campus, whatever they might be. Well, through IEEE-HKN New, we can help you expose other companies from around the globe, truthfully, to your graduates. I know we've, at the headquarters level, Nancy, do you want to maybe speak to what we've been doing with TI and some of those workshops and how they've been using us to reach out to campuses that they've never been able to get to?
Absolutely.
So
I can. So Texas Instruments has been one of our partners for quite a number of years. I work with their university department. So again, big companies, a lot of, there's large companies like this have lots of divisions. Many have divisions that are just focused on what they do in universities. So again, sometimes it's getting to the right division or part of the company, especially if it's a big company. So, it takes a little while to navigate that. And to get to the right people. But with Texas Instruments, it's always at the SLC. They've been with us for a number of years in person, and they're here. There's a session. Is it today, Michael? Is TI today? Is it Monday? Is it next Saturday? It's next weekend. Yeah, it's one or the other. They're going to be here running a workshop. But what they wanted to do when the pandemic hit, they were really still wanting to, usually they go on campus and they might have you all work with them and organize a room to have a workshop. And they bring in the equipment and they teach, how to use their equipment, and they do that. And that works a great model for them. When the pandemic hit, they couldn't do that. The campuses were closed. What to do? So, I was working with them on how they could reach the students that they wanted to, and we came up with a program where they identified universities where they really wanted to make sure that they met with students and got great attendance at some workshops. We did the marketing out. We went out to EdCap New students, offered them a exclusive opportunity, because only to EdCap New students, to sign up and participate in these TI workshops, which were held virtually. But what happened is you registered in advance and TI shipped you the kit. Michael, I know you built one of the robots for one of the kits, and the other one was a controller. So they shipped you all the components. You got a nice big box, right, with all the stuff in it to do the workshop and build it. And what they were looking for was to be able to teach the concepts, also to be able then to have your projects, interact with you and learn more about you and meet you, probably even look to hire you. So that worked really nicely because we were able to get them the students that they were hoping to get. And what they told me, again, it's why we've continued our relationship, is because although they can open up workshops to anyone, when they bring in EdCap New students, y'all are prepared to, you come in at a certain level of understanding and expertise in the field, right? So it's very easy. It's much easier to do it with you online. When they've tried this, just other places, it's not so easy. So they're really thrilled with it. We did. I can't remember how many of them we've done now. But if we've gone out to, the last time we went out, those workshops filled up in a day. They were just like people, because they understood the value of them. So again, I talked to industry about what do they need, not just about what we need, but what do they need? And we help them fill a need in this case. So sometimes you can talk to people, make sure you understand, what do they need? What are they looking for? Who are they trying to reach? What would help them organizationally? What, again, it's when you're working with a customer, it's about their needs, not necessarily yours. And when their needs can align with what you can deliver, you have a winning program.
Well put. We have about 8 minutes left. Let me see. There's some activity in the chat. Let's see. Katie, do your chapters have donor levels or chapter sponsors with different perks for different donation amounts? So if so, what are some of the perks besides giving tech talks or info sessions that you offer? Nathaniel and Ashley, you want to touch on that?
I guess I can go first because my answer is pretty short. We currently do not have anything set up for the donation levels or chapter sponsors. What we're working on right now is creating a resume book with all of our current membership, and we're going to offer that online if companies or industry wants to provide a donation. The amount would be of their choice, and then they would get to download the PDF. It can either be a whole book, or it could be split by major, or if they're looking just for seniors, that kind of stuff. So we have some things in the works, but at the very moment, we do not have any structure set up for this.
Yeah, so as far as like chapter sponsors, I'm actually not too sure off the top of my head. But going off of what I actually said, like the resume book, yeah, we offer that as well. It's just publicly available on our website and things like that. But yeah, I don't think we like only offer the ability to like post a TikTok to our corporate sponsors, right? Because yeah, and I'm not too sure off the top of my head, like a list of exclusive like beta upselling sponsors, honestly.
Yeah, if you want, I can help you out there and just say it's not, I think with Katie's question is like a ongoing partnership, right? So if you become a gold level partner, for example, you get 2 tech talks in the year, 1 general meeting, and you can sponsor an Eek Speaks, which is the chapter's newsletter, right? Beta Epsilon does not do that. It's actually not a bad idea. But yeah, right now it's kind of more of a catch as catch can, right? So in the past, there have been a couple of companies, Microsoft and Facebook, for example, have wanted that first general meeting, right? So because the electrical computer engineering, computer science, data science, etc., all of that is so large at Michigan, the chapter invites about 15 to 1,800 people each semester, and with contact both to parents at home and then the actual students, they get a decent turnout. Companies that have been with us before know this, so that first meeting that we mentioned is in demand. So in the past, both Facebook and Microsoft have basically signed multi-year deals to make sure they get to present at that first meeting. And I believe we have charged a little bit more for that. But otherwise, I don't think Beta Epsilon has done that, Katie, but that's a good idea. Worth looking at. Any other questions or comments from anyone in the audience?
Well, I know this sounds daunting, right? So it might sound like it's a lot to do, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do as a chapter officer, and I'm trying to recruit people, and I have to do this, and I have to file my reports, and I'm supposed to do all these things. So again, one thing is to try to get someone who does what Beta Epsilon does and have a person in charge of maybe working on those kinds of things. But remember, you can start with just one. So you don't have to have 12 months of companies lined up and a whole big program. You can start with one. And starting with one will give you some experience and, maybe form a relationship with that company so that you can year in, year out, because that is the basis of making, of a long-term support, right? How do we get them to come back every year? How do we work with them on an ongoing basis? What other things can they help you with? So again, remember, think of them as a partner, not just as a pocketbook. And in the partnership realm, be a good listener. Listen to what they're telling you that they're interested in. So again, you might really be able to connect with people because they're at a Kappa Nu. They're your alumni. That's a great connection. Or they joined another chapter. It doesn't matter. You could find someone who's inducted in a different chapter, but they're still at a Kappa Nu. Partner, that's another one with other organizations. But remember, think about what their needs are. Like you said, when Microsoft or Facebook learned how many people come and really how powerful that meeting is, they wanted to sign a multi-year deal. You didn't have to sell them. They all, people want to buy. They don't like to be sold. They like to buy. Show them what they're getting and start with one. Don't make yourself crazy, right? Do one.
And Katie, just absolutely agree, Nancy. Katie, why don't you request to share your screen? Because I think that the most recent comment in the chat is definitely airing audibly. So let's get you up here if you're willing. She is excellent. So as she joins, this is Katie Brinker, one of our former student governors, chair of our PR Communications Committee, and an officer, I believe, or advisor, and our new chapter. Katie, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, thanks. So in the chat, I was just saying that we developed some donor levels over this past summer, something that we have been talking about for a long time. And we wanted to just kind of have these on our website. Companies have reached out to us because they've seen this on our chapter website. And some of the perks we have are just like having their logo on our website. So to be able to say like, oh, Texas Instruments is a sponsor of our new chapter. or putting their logo in our help room, which is where we do tutoring for the department. So when students are coming in, they see some of our partners and who's helping us out and making these things possible. Social media shout outs, shout out in our newsletter, named events, etc. So yeah, part of my motivation for asking that question too in the chat is I was just curious if there's other perks people have thought of that, are helpful or have been very incentivizing to companies as well. We kind of had some trouble coming up with the ones that we did come up with, and we were racking our brains for, what do companies actually want and what's helpful to them?
So, Katie, a question for you then would be, does New Chapter have a newsletter? And I know for Beta Epsilon, the EEC newsletter is technically the newsletter of the department. So when the DB Cafe that they run is operational, copies are available there for people to pick up. So, with them, if Beta Epsilon was going to do it, I would suggest putting something in, it's a bi-weekly newsletter too, available to the entire community. The logo or whatever it might be could also help. So if you folks have that, you could definitely include that, and/or if you don't, it might be a nice service for the department as well. But also you can have some sponsorship in there.
So currently we do a weekly newsletter that goes out to our members, has everything that's coming up, those kind of things, and then we do something at the end of the semester that's for kind of the broader community, for faculty members, for alumni. Those kind of things as well, and some of our partners. So that's something that we're leveraging as well, and that's part of our donor levels right now.
Awesome. Yeah, and the two other points quickly, I would just suggest resume books. Ashley and Nathaniel both mentioned that. If you're not doing that, that's a great place to start. I can put in chat as well, Beta Epsilon Chapter's corporate page. So let me just toss that in the website as well. You can see that. And if you, in the audience here, or certain panelists have similar links, definitely share them with us. We might actually survey that from our chapters at some point in the semi-near future. Because again, this is an area where we consistently hear from chapters looking for help. So some additional best practices here would be a good idea.
Yeah, and I'll plug your session. Oh, did you already have it, Katie? Your successful practices session?
Yeah, it was this morning, but you all can watch it on replay if you want.
Well, so we have a successful chapter database, so practices database. So Katie's been leading this effort. So when you send in things in your reports, your activity reports, Katie's team takes them and turns them into kind of a template for every other chapter to use. So we do share those out. So Katie, I think you probably have some of these corporate programs and some other ideas in the successful chapter database that you can go to via our website.
Yeah, definitely. And we're always adding more to this database too. It's not, a static resource. It's being developed over time. So we are looking to add more fundraising and corporate relations and donation type activities too, because again, that's another need that we've identified among our chapters, and that you all have mentioned here as well, is that, fundraising, getting money for your chapter and developing these relationships, it's not always easy. It's something that takes effort and work and time and care. So we are focusing on that as an area to add more practices to the database for.
Well, the great thing is that we're at a Kappa Nu, right? We all be individual chapters, but we are one big community. As Michael says, a community of communities. So the great thing at Kappa Nu is we share with each other. So what works, so that's what this session is about, and lots of other things that we're doing, is that we learn from each other and we share our very best, our best ideas, our best practices, how it works in different places that you can adapt to your own chapter. So, again, if you're just trying to go it alone within your own chapter, you might be working too hard. Come and participate, because there's other people that have experienced what you're experiencing at some level or some way, and they probably have some ideas and some suggestions, some tips and suggestions, probably things you can find right on the website to help you along. So don't miss out on that.
Absolutely. So we have a few minutes left, and we have a little break prior to our SLC networking. So I want to make sure everyone has time to get to that. I'd like to thank all our panelists and those that were active in the chat, and give everyone a chance to offer a final word on this. So if you're a viewer, please feel free to post something in the chat. We'll share it. Ashley, let's start with you as a panelist, then Nathaniel and Nancy, and Katie, if you want to, why not? So some final words on corporate programs and tips or tricks that we might not have covered yet, or anything else related.
Yeah, so I would definitely say when I first started reaching out to companies, I was a little nervous because I was expecting a no. But as Nancy has said many times, like they want to be a part of what you're doing. But also to what you also just mentioned, like we don't as individual chapters have to reinvent the wheel here. Like the resume idea for splitting up like grade level and majors I got from the chapter over at Berkeley. And some of the other corporate stuff we've been looking at, I've looked at the Beta Epsilon page, and so you can see what other chapters are doing and replicate that or modify it to work at your chapter. So it'll still take some work, and you can reach out to those chapters, but you don't have to do this all by yourself. So don't.
Well put.
I just want to reiterate the importance of reaching out to your alumni. It might seem like a bit daunting, but there's a lot of alumni that are really enthusiastic to come back to their alma mater and work for HKN. And yeah, also like initially sending out those emails it could be a little daunting, I guess, especially if you don't like cold emailing people. But I mean, once you get into it, you'll be fine. And like the worst that can happen is they don't respond to your email, and like what happens then? Like it is what it is. Yeah. And that's basically it.
Perfect. Nancy?
Well, people always ask me, Nancy, how do you get companies to engage, and how do you get people to donate? Because we also do philanthropy. And I have to say, it's the easiest answer. You have to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. You might get a different no. You might get a no, not now, no, not for this, no, no, not this year. But you'll always get a no if you don't ask. So asking is the key. And again, this is a skill set. This is a muscle you're going to have to learn how to exercise when you go and get a job, when you want to be in the workforce. You're going to have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to learn how to email people that probably you never met before. You're going to have to learn how to make an argument for what you do and put your program out there. You need to think about how you do that. These are not just things you have to do for your chapter to get support now this year. These are absolutely vital skills that employers are looking for. So if you're running the industry engagement program and you're running that, and you can put in your resume, I ran the industry program. I recruited 12 companies. We raised X number of dollars. We brought in this many people. Get your numbers together. These are experiences that will make a difference when you put that on your resume and your cover letter. This lets people know I can go out and do this. I can talk to people. I can make an argument. I can get people to do things. Boy, that's powerful. And then we'll look at you differently, not just for your engineering skills and your expertise and what you bring as an Kappa New student, but what you've accomplished by doing this work. So it's not just for your chapter. It really exercises the muscles you need to be a very successful engineer and employee in your career.
Yeah, and I guess I would say, jumping off of Nancy's point, we did have an episode of the HKN Connection that's up on YouTube about HKN and philanthropy. So if you're interested more in the philosophy of why people give, how people give, and that kind of thing, that's a really great resource to go check out. I know I learned a lot about, just kind of like the psychology of all of that and how you can leverage that in your asks as well. And another thing I would say too is if you are developing donor levels, make sure they're manageable, because you will have to fulfill them if somebody gives a donation at that level. If you have a gold sponsor, you have to give them the perks of a gold sponsor. And so you have to make sure you can follow through on your end too, so you keep that relationship going.
Well put. Absolutely. So we are a little over time, but I think this has been a really, I've learned a lot, a helpful discussion. I hope it has been for all of you as well in the audience and on the panel. Again, thank you to each of our panelists and those that have been active in the chat. I'll note Bernie Sander, our HKN secretary, notes quite rightly that nostalgia really can work well, like Nathaniel mentioned. So leverage our alumni. Take advantage of the resources that we're putting out to help you find out who your alumni are And I would just say, as a pro tip, don't make the first thing you do when you reach out to an alumnus be asking them for money. Connect with them, let them come back to camp, to the chapter, whether it's virtually or in person, get to know them, maybe invite them to a reception, whatever it might be. Develop the relationship, and then if you want to ask for money, do so. But don't make that the first thing. That will not go over very well, generally speaking. With that, thank you all. We have a couple of minutes before the networking begins, and then we'll continue with the day. So thank you. Stand up, stretch if needed, and we'll get back to this in just a few minutes. Thank you all. Take care.